In our today's class, we're going to be covering control structures, which are if statements. So in Python, we have conditional statements. So we have if statements. So an if statement is a statement that runs a block of code once a certain condition is true. So, for example, you can be able to run an if statement so far the condition that you present to it is true, then it will continue running. If that condition is false, then it will not run that block of code. It will just move on to the next code that is below the if statement. So for example, let's head straight to PyCharm. So for example, if then any statement here, any condition here, then a column, then statement to run. So whenever you write an if statement, there must be a condition. So if this condition is true and it remains true, anything that you provide below here will be run. So if you notice, whenever I put my colon and then press enter, PyCharm automatically brings my cursor straight down here. That is called indentation. So PyCharm automatically add 4 lines to the left of my cursor, meaning that anything that I run below here will continue running so far the condition that is here is true. So for example, in order to write an if statement, you start with an if statement. Then, for example, let's begin with the variable name, or let's say, for example, data is equals to true. So if data, then print you have data. So if you run this program and you check your terminal, you're going to see you have data. So if, then this is the condition, which is data and is true by default, then Python interpreter goes to the statement and says that you want to print this, you have data, then it executes. If we go ahead and then turn this data to false and run our program one more time, we don't see anything. So that simply means that an if statement only executes once the condition that you provide before this colon is true, and then it will go ahead and continue executing anything that is any statement that is below the condition. So for example, let's try another example in order to get this if statement right. So let's say if, let's write a little program. For example, if let's say enter your name, let's write the variable name and then assign it the value input, enter your name. So we'll create an if statement. If name, that means if you provide any name, go ahead and print. Then we do a formatted string, hello, and then create a container, then name. So if we go ahead and run this program, we're going to see enter your name, Nuesa, and then hello, Nuesa. So for an if statement, there's an elif statement in case you want to check for conditions that are more than one. Let's say you want to check like 3 to 4 conditions. You want to run your program based on 3 to 4 conditions. So there's an else if. So in other programming languages, it's known as else if. So in Python, you can do that by just saying else if, then your condition, then down here any statement that you want to run. So let's try a little program to see. For example, let's say day is equals to rainy. Sorry. If day is equals to rainy, print take your umbrella. So else if day is equals to, let's say for example, sunny, then print drink a lot of water. Then if we go ahead and run this program, we'll see take your umbrella, because this day condition is rainy. So if we go and change this day to sunny and run our program one more time, drink a lot of water is printed out to the terminal. So what Python interpreter does is it goes to the beginning of your code and it sees that you have created a day variable and you have assigned a sunny value to it. So it goes down to your if statement, and the condition is that so far day is equals to rainy, it will print take your umbrella. And else if day is equals to sunny, it will go down and execute drink a lot of water. So next, there's an else statement. So if Python interpreter goes and sees that you don't have any condition left, so there's an else statement to that. If all these conditions are not met, it will go and execute by default the else statement. So let's go and add an else statement. To add an else statement, you come down to this line, not here, but here to the beginning of this line, and then you write an else statement, else with a colon. Then we can go ahead and print it's a lovely day, or enjoy your day. Yeah, it's a lovely day. So if we go ahead and run our program, we see that drink a lot of water is printed because day is set to sunny. So if we come down and delete this day is equals to sunny and run our program, we see it's a lovely day. Why is that? Python interpreter goes and sees your condition. You said that if it is rainy, print take your umbrella. So it's not rainy, it's not sunny. So it comes down to this default value, else value, and then prints whatever statement that you provide below this block of code. So that is how an if and else statement works in Python. So for example, I've created some text. We are going to create, let's create a little calorie calculator using if and else statement and the lesson that you learned in your previous classes. We are going to be creating a little calorie calculator. So we're going to create a calorie calculator. First, we're going to be collecting input from the user. And that input is going to contain the calories consumed for that day. And the next input is going to collect the food that the user is about to take. So, and then we are going to go ahead and define a variable total calories consumed for that day, and then sum or add the calories consumed plus the calories that the user is about to consume. So then we are going to calculate if the total calories is above 1,600, then we're going to print calorie deficit of so has been reached. Don't eat it. And then we're going to check again. If total calories is less than 300, we're going to print eat larger portion, or else we're going to print show you can eat it. So let's go ahead and implement that. Let's delete this program. To begin with, we are going to be defining a variable calories consumed and then calories in item. So let's define a variable calories consumed and assign it the value. We are going to be collecting input from the user, and then we're going to be prompting enter calories consumed. So next, we are going to be collecting a second variable, calorie in item about to be consumed. So you can simply go ahead and say calories about or calories in item, and then assign it the value input, enter calories in item, and then next we're going to be collecting total calories. So in order to get our total calories, we can use our plus operator. We can define a variable total calories and then assign it the value, the calories consumed, cal consumed plus calories in item. So this is going to give us the addition of the calories that we are going to be consumed. So next, we are going to be writing an if statement. If total calories is greater than 60. So we were basically turning this plain English to code. So you can simply go ahead and say, if, write your if statement, if total calories is greater than or equal to 1,600, then put your colon and then press enter. Whatever that we write here is going to be executed as far as this total calories is greater than or equal to 1,600. So next, we are going to be printing calorie deficit of total calories reached. Don't eat it. So we'll print in a formatted string calorie deficit of, then create our container and then put our total calories reached. Please don't eat anymore. So our next condition is going to be if the total calories is less than 300. So that means your total calories for that day is less than 300. So we are going to advise you to take more calories. So come to your next line. Please do not write your elif statement here. You should come to the beginning of this line. If total calories is less than. In our yesterday's class, we have covered all these logical operators, less than, greater than. So now you can see a real world example of all these greater than, less than, not equal to. You can see their roles in a real world example. So if total calories is less than 300, colon, press enter, then go ahead and print please take a larger portion, or you can write you are low on calories. Please take a larger portion. So our next condition is going to be an else condition. If your calories is less than 300, we're going to be running this. If your calories is above 16, we're going to be running this. So by default, we're going to be writing show you can eat it. So if neither of these condition is met, you can come down and put a default statement, else. with a colon and then press enter. Then you can go ahead and print. Sorry. Yes, you can eat it. So let's run our program. Let's add a space here, another space here, in order to make our code look cleaner. If we run our code, enter calories consumed. Let's say I already consumed 1,000 calories today. Enter calories in item. Let's say I'm about to take a burger that is of, let's say, 700 calories, and I want to calculate if it is healthy for me to eat, and I'll press enter. Very good. So we are getting an error. If calories is greater than or equal to 1,600, not supported between instances of str and integer. Please, in the chat section, why are we getting this error? Can someone please explain? Why are we getting this error, please? We just got an error, not supported between instances of str and int. Please, why are we getting this error? Can someone please explain in the chat section? We just got an error that greater than or equal to is not supported between the instances of a string and integer. To make sure that you guys are understanding what I'm doing, please. Okay, Dauda said, due to the string and integer issue, you cannot add integer to letters. Okay, yeah, you're right. So let's go ahead. Okay, someone, how do we correct that, please? How do we correct this error? Very good. Bello Shehu said we are trying to add integer to string. You're right. Lawrence said our inputs are integers, not letters. Yes, okay. Falopi said Python can only concatenate the same value. You're right. Okay. Convert the int to str. Okay, you're right. So let's go ahead and do that. If you come down to here, we can simply just convert this int input. We can just call our int function, which is a built-in function for converting any string to an integer, then pass it the input that we are collecting from our user. Because by default, Python accepts input as strings, be it their numbers or strings or whatever, it automatically converts them to a string. So, but if you go ahead and call the int function and then put your input as a parameter to the integer function, it will convert everything to an integer. So let's go ahead and run our program one more time. Enter calories consumed, 1,000. Enter calories in item, 100 calories. Press enter. And then we get an output of calorie deficit of 1,700 reached. Please don't eat anymore. You see, our program is kind of like interactive. So let's run the program one more time. Enter calories consumed, 200. Enter calories in item, 100. Enter. You see, we get an output of yes, you can eat it. So what is happening here is Python interpreter goes and then checks that your calories consumed is 100. So, and you give it a condition that if the total calories is greater than 16, that it should stop you from eating anymore. So your elif condition checks for another condition. If total calories is less than 300, then it will print you are low on calories, please take a larger portion. Or else, if neither of these conditions are met, then it will by default come down, which is what happened here. So let's go ahead and write a calorie that is less than 300 and see. Let's run our program one more time. Calories consumed, 50. Calories in item, 50. You see, you are low on calories. please take a larger portion. So we are getting this output because our total calories is less than 300. So that's basically it. Conditional statements in Python. So next, we're going to be writing a little program. Though we don't have the time, I'm going to be giving this as an assignment. If a house buyer has a good credit, then the down payment will be 10%. Else the down payment will be 20%. So I wanted us to cover this one as well. So, but there's no time. I'm going to be giving you this as an assignment. So next, we are going to be covering if with a logical operator. This one is going to be assignment as well. Let's go down to while loops. So a while loop is also a conditional statement that is built into Python that runs while loop is true. It can run forever. While loops are used to create interactive programs like games, robots, and the rest. So because it runs and it collects input from the user in real time. So, for example, let's go to a Python, and then we get rid of a program. So in order to define a while loop, you just write while, and then you provide your condition. Let's say, for example, let's define a variable I and then assign it the value, let's say 10. So we can come down and say while I is less than 10, it is less than or equal to 10. Sorry, let's initialize y as 1. While I is less than or equal to 10, then we'll print I. But before you run your program, if you don't provide a condition that is going to be reducing the value of y as the program continues, your program is going to run forever. So we can say we can reduce the value of y, just like we did yesterday in our previous class, the increment and the decrement operator. We can come here and say I is equals to I minus 1. Or you can as well do minus equal 1. So let's go ahead and run our program. Sorry, our program is still executing. Let's see why. We define a program, I, and then while I is less than 10, we'll continue. Okay, sorry. While I is less than 10, we're going to be printing I. And then, okay, sorry. And then we are going to be reducing. Yeah, that is why we need to be adding, not reducing. Sorry. We are going to be adding 1 to the value of I. So if we come down to our program, we see 1 to 10 is printed in the terminal. So what happens is Python interpreter comes to the first line and sees that you have initialized a variable with I, and then you assign the value 1. So, and then it comes down to the next line and sees that there's a while statement. And a while loop is a block of code that continues executing a statement below it once the condition you provide is true. So it sees that I is less than 10. So 1 is definitely less than 10. So it prints I. And it comes down to the next line and it sees that I is incremented by 1. So I will turn to 2. So it will jump back to the while loop. Now the value of I is 2 and 2 is less than 10. It will print 2. It will come down and it will add 1 to I again. So now the value of I is 3. It will jump back. 3 is less than or equal to 10. It will print 3. It will come down as well. So when I reaches 10, because your condition is I is less than or equal to 10, it will print 10 and then the program will break and it will stop. Executing. In order to prove, it will stop executing and go to the next line. Let's print something in the next line and see. Print your loop just ended. And then run our program and see. You see, we get 1 to 10, and then finally it came out of the loop, and then it printed your loop just ended, just as we provided. So while loops are so important, let's go ahead and create. Let's say, for example, let me give you guys another example so that you will assimilate it well. Let's create a variable called counter, and then assign it the value 0. You can create a counter with a while loop. So while counter while counter, let's say, is greater than 0, print in a formatted string counter is equals to, then we create our basket and put the value of counter. And then we come down and say counter is equals to counter minus 1. Sorry, 5. And then we run our program. So our program continues running forever. Let's see why. Let's stop the program. We initialize a counter, and then we assign it the value 5. While counter is greater than 0, we are going to be printing counter to the terminal, and then we are subtracting. Okay, sorry, we had a problem here. Instead of this equal sign, I made a typo. I typed minus. Counter is equal to counter minus 1, and let's run our program. And then we get counter is 5, counter is 4, 3, 2, 1. So you see, we keep incrementing counter, and if the value of counter is greater than 0, so once our counter reaches 0, the program, this condition is going to be false, and then the program is going to stop executing. So next, let's create an example of it. Let's say screen locker check. Okay. Let's say you want to create a program that is going to be checking your password. If your password is correct, it's going to give you an access to your phone. Let's define a variable password and assign it the value, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4. So we can come down and say while true, so that we want our condition to keep running. We'll say code is equals to input. We are going to be collecting the password from the user. Enter your phone password. So we are going to be using if statements here. So if, let's make this code, let's make this variable more descriptive. Passcode. Yes. If passcode is equal to password, print your phone is unlocked, or print welcome. Then we are going to write an else statement. Note that this else statement is not starting from the beginning of this line, because while this condition is true, whatever we provide here will be inside this while loop, will keep on running. So if you come outside the loop and then you write any statement here, it is going to create an error, or it is not going to be part of this statement that you're running inside this loop. So we're going to write an else statement, print, let's say wrong password. and then we break. Let's run the program and see. Enter your password. Okay, let's say 222. You see, I get the wrong password. Enter your password. 222. Wrong password. Enter your password. 1234. Enter. And then I receive a welcome. But if you notice something, I have already unlocked my phone and I have received welcome, but the program is still asking me enter your password. So there's this thing that we call break. You can break out of this loop once your condition is true. So you can come down here and say print welcome and then break. So a break is another part of a while loop and a for loop as well. Once you are done with your condition, or one certain condition that you want that you provide is met, you can say break to break out of the loop. If not, your loop is going to keep on working forever. So let's run the program one more time and 234. Sorry, let's enter a wrong password. 222. Wrong password. Enter your password. 333. Wrong password. Enter your password. 1234. You see, I received welcome and the program has stopped executing because of this break statement that I provided. If you don't provide this break statement, your program is going to keep on running forever and you don't want that. So next, let me go back to the chat section to see. Please, do you understand what I'm, okay. Do you have any question pertaining the while loop? Because we're going to be moving to another example. Please, if you have any doubts or any problem with the while loop, you can indicate in the chat box. Okay, that means you guys, okay? Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, I'm glad you guys are, so let's create a little game using this while loop, but I don't think we have enough time. I wanted us to create a moving robot using while loop and then go down to for loop. But I don't think we have enough time. But if let's cover this for loop, and then if we still have enough time, we're going to be creating maybe a moving robot game with while loop so that you guys will understand the concept. So let's go to for loop. Let's get rid of this program. For loop is another statement that keeps on running while a certain condition is true. For loop execute a block of code repeatedly until the condition in the for loop statement is no longer valid. But once the condition is valid, for loop is going to keep on running. And if the condition is not valid anymore, it will not run. So in Python, there's an iterable. We use for loop in order to iterate. So an iterable refers to anything that can be looped over. If you can loop over anything, then you can call it an iterable, such as strings. A string is an iterable because it's a sequence of characters. You can go in and tuple is also an iterable. So in order to, this is how the syntax goes. Like, let's say for A in iterable, then any statement that you want to do will go down here. So let's go ahead and let's define a list, for example. A list is a data type in Python that is used for storing several variables. For example, storing several variables. Let's say you have users that you want to save. Let's say you have user 1, user 2, user 3. So it's not convenient for you to be defining variables for all these users. So this is where list comes in. So in order to let's say, for example, let's say you have a shopping cart in your website. So there's no way you're going to be saving each and every item separately. So you have a list for saving all those items. That is where a list comes in. So in order to define a list, let's say, for example, you have a cart or shopping cart. To define a list, you first start with a square bracket. Then you can put anything in the list. Let's say, for example, let's say milk, and then you separate them with a comma. Let's say Lipton or tea bag. Or tea bag. Wow, I love tea bags. I love coffee as well. Let's say, even though I hate sugar, let's say sugar. So this is how you define a list. So as you can see, it has several items in it. So it means it is an iterable. You can iterate through each and every element in this list. Just like someone asked in our previous class, whether you can be able to perform element-wise calculation in list. Definitely, they are iterable, so you can perform element-wise calculation with them. So in order to iterate or in order to go through this list and print each and every item one by one, we're going to be needing a for loop. So in order to define a for loop, you start with a for. So, and you need a variable that is going to be keeping track of all these items. Next is the variable. You can define this variable anything you want. Let's say, for example, item.
Oh, we lost you again. We can't hear your voice.
In the terminal. So let's prove that you can name this variable anything. Let's say for things in cart, print things. So if we run the program, we see milk, tea bag, coffee, and sugar. So next, there's this function that is called enumerate that is built into Python. So an enumerate is a function that keeps track of the index of a list and the item in the list. So for example, you can use this for loop, like say let's say for index, comma, items in enumerate cart, you can go ahead and then print index, comma, items. If we go ahead and run this program, we are going to see 0 milk, 1 tea bag, 2 coffee, 3 sugar. So these are basically the index. Just like in a string class, we covered what are index. So a list also has bag. The third is coffee, and then the fourth is sugar. So an indexing starts with 0 in Python. Please do not forget that. Let's see what's next. Looping.
We can't hear you. You've lost here.
Yeah, Yerma, can you hear us? We can't really hear you. I don't know about your mic. You have to really work on it. Yerma, can you hear me? Can you hear us? Hello? Hello?
$4,000, and then maybe the last one is let's say 50,000. So, and then in my application, I want to dynamically calculate what is in your shopping cart and then return the value to you. So just like in AliExpress and Konga, all the e-commerce websites that you see, so you can simply do that with a for loop. So you can look through each and every item and then be adding it dynamically. So you can come down and create a variable called total. The reason why we create this variable is because as we are adding it, we need a place where we can save them. So initially, we can set total to 0. So then we will look through each and every item here. So we use a for loop for that. So for item in, you see, Python is like plain English. For item in shopping cart prices with a colon, then I press enter. Total will increment by what? By item. As simple as that. So after that, we jump out of the loop and then we print is, and then we pass the variable total to the container. So if we run our program, we received your total. But I think it's a total not more than 50,000. Let's go ahead and make it 500 and see. No, there's something wrong. Okay, here is the problem. And we get 3,000. So what is happening is that this is a shopping cart, and we set a variable total in order to receive the save the total amount, because we need to be saving them, we need to be keeping track of them, and then we use a for loop, since you can iterate using for loop, and then but there's a variable that you need to set inside a for loop that is going to be keeping track of the iteration. So, but you can name this variable anything. I can say for goods in shopping cart, total will increment by goods. So when in the first iteration, goods is going to be 100. In the second iteration, goods is going to be 2,000, and then 400, and then 500. So I'll come down this total, which is this variable, I will be incrementing, or I will be adding the value of this. First, I added the value of this. Then the loop came up. Since it has not reached the end of the shopping cart, goods is 2,000 now. It added 2,000 to total. Good is 400. It added so and so and so. So I'll change this variable to goods, and that is all. So if you go ahead and run your program one more time, you receive your total is. After that, I came out of the loop, and then I printed my total variable, which is 3,000. So, and for the sake of Dauda asked me a question yesterday that maybe he wants to perform an element-wise calculation. Let's say, for example, I have a variable X and I have a list or a metric 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then I have a second variable Y, which is, let's say, 10, 20, let's say 30. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20, 30, let's say 44, let's say, sorry, 66. So in order to perform an element-wise calculation between these two lists, I'll create a variable total. or sum. Sorry, sum is a built-in function. Let's say total, and assign it the variable. There's what is called list comprehension in Python. So this is a little bit advanced, but we're going to cover them if we had the time. So you can say A, comma B. You understand? A, A, comma B for, sorry, A plus B for A, comma B in zip, then X, comma Y. This is a little bit advanced. So you can go ahead and then print total. And then you get a list. So what is happening is a little bit outside the scope of this class. So A, comma B is a variable that is keeping track. This A will be keeping track of whatever that is in between this list. And this B is going to be keeping track whatever whatever value that is in this list. So for A, comma B, so, and these two pointers is going to be saved in the variable A, comma B. So, and then in the first iteration, A will be 2, and then B will be 10. It will add them. That is why I put A plus B. In the second iteration, 3 will be A, and then 20 will be B. It will sum them. That's why you see the first value is 12. 10 plus 2 is 12. The second value is 23. 3 plus 20 is 23, and so on, so on, so on. But this is a little bit outside the scope of this class. But if we get time, we're going to be covering them in our next classes, maybe in our future tutorials. So let's take questions from you guys.
Yeah, that's an amazing one. I think at this stage we can call it an end for today. Unless people have questions, then we can look at the questions within the next 3 minutes.
Yeah, if you have questions, I'll give you guys like 5 minutes. I'll give you guys like 5 minutes to answer your questions, and then later on, after I'm done with some of my stops, I'll record your assignments, or I'll just share them because this is going to be your assignment. Let's say, which one? You're going to be checking. You're going to be checking if an applicant has, no, not this one. Maybe let's say a function or an algorithm that is going to be, let's say for example, is false, and then the variable is going to check if the applicant has more than 5 credit and his age is below 25 and has no criminal record, then you go ahead and print qualified. So if the applicant has less than 5 credit and the applicant is above the age of 25 and the applicant has a criminal record, if either of those variables is true, then you should go ahead and print not qualified. So that this is a little program that you're going to test your knowledge of if statements, and then maybe of maybe for loops or Boolean values. Okay, someone said we need light on the formatted string. Okay, how do we know when to use the formatted string? Okay, that's let me clarify that. Sorry, maybe we covered that. Maybe this is new to you. So in order to create a formatted string, let's say you have a variable name, and then you assign it the value, let's say Nuesa, and then you have another variable, let's say for example age, and then you have the value, let's say 20. So if you want to display this name and then this age dynamically, you don't need to concatenate them. So it's like advanced concatenation. If you want to join them, let's say, for example, you want to say, hello, Nuesa, your age is 20. You can go ahead and use a print function, or you can go ahead and create a variable, greetings, and then assign it the value as a formatted string. In order to create a formatted string, you use F. You just use letter F with double quote or single quote. And that is it, as simple as that. Let's use double quote. I'll be greeting Nuesa, let's say good night, and then I'll choose my basket. I'll put a curly braces. Whatever that you put in between this value is going to be printed. So I can be able to put whatever I want in between these containers. Let's say name, and then comma. So I don't need to print the age. So as simple as that. In order to create a formatted string, you prefix your string with an F, then create a double quote string, because we're going to be defining a string. Then you write your message, and then whatever that you want to display dynamically, then you put it in between. Like I gave an example in our previous class. Let's say you are in a website and you want to greet the user dynamically. So there are thousands of users. So you are not going to be inputting their names. They are the ones that have the function to input their name. So let's say they input their name as Nuesa. So you just write a formatted string and then put the variable. Whatever they put in their name is going to be displayed here. So if you run your program, so that did not print. If I go ahead and print, let's say greetings, then I get good night and then Nuesa, whatever I put into this container. Let's say, for example, I wanted to display the age. I just put age and then I run. So good night, and you see 20. So as simple as that. Those are formatted string. So any other question? Someone said, when will today's video be available? It will be available. I will record it tonight, maybe later around 1 a.m. Then I'll be sharing it with the host. Maybe you are going to get it tomorrow morning. Or there's a link. I think there's a link to this video, right? But I'll create maybe a 10 or 15 minute video explaining those concepts again, maybe later on. Okay, so any other question? Someone said, let's do the moving robot. Yeah, I think that would, okay, you can do that as your assignment. You just create a loop that is going to be, let's say, a moving robot dynamically by using a for loop or a while loop. Adewale, you're welcome.
Yeah, I think we are already running fast out of time, so probably we should be rounding up, I think, at this stage, so that whatever is there, we can take it down, then we look at. Somebody asked, please have you answer. Okay, I think that has been answered. So the recorded session will be sent up later in the platforms. I think we'll get it and it will be sent through to us so that we can follow up from wherever we are.
Okay,
So that we don't keep ourselves too much.
Someone said, Lauren said, the shared video format does not play on my device. Go to Google Play Store or Apple Store and download MX Player. It can play any format. Just download MX Player and then you're good to go. So I think we'll call it a day, right?
Yeah, I think it's good. So it's good. I think it's good. We call it a day for now. Then we continue tomorrow.
Okay. So thank you. So you guys are welcome. So I think you guys should have a good night.
Yeah, thank you very, very much, and good night to you too, Irma. And thank you for the great gesture. Dauda Laifa, you're indicating that you have a question. However, we have run out of time, so please just drop it in the platform, and it will be compiled. And if it needs to be reacted to, we'll react to it tomorrow before we commence. So please just drop it in the platforms. Thank you all very much for creating out this time today to be part of this, and I continue to encourage each and every one of you not to relent your efforts, continue to put in much more passion in whatever we are doing. Remember that it's not about what you achieve for the moment, it's about what you will be for the future. I hope we all get the best at the end of the day. Thank you all very much. AK Yerima Mohammed, thank you once more